It's time for Recipe of the Day. It's Friday, we made it, and I want something often at the beginning of the weekend that's like sophisticated and nice, like I'm celebrating, but also like so ridiculously easy, right? So that is where this balsamic chicken recipe comes in. Now, you know how often chicken recipes have you sear the chicken first and then gets a nice brown color on it, and then maybe you make a sauce in the pan and you cook it. That is something that works really well, but something that I don't always have patience for. And then I just want to put the chicken in the oven in some kind of sauce and let it be. The problem with that is sometimes that makes the chicken just kind of have a pale color and it's just not as appetizing looking. That is kind of how this balsamic chicken recipe came about. I wanted something with some nice deep color and stickiness, but I didn't want to actually have to brown anything and take that time. Now, depending on the thickness of your chicken, these will really be done baking in like 20 minutes. If you just have those small 6-ounce chicken breasts, or if you use cutlets or boneless, skinless thighs that you've like unrolled, you know what I mean? Like when you have the bone-in ones, the bone is in the middle of this little like bundly looking thing. They cut the bone out and then they kind of wrap it back around where the bone was. So you have a little bundle. Unroll that. Now you have a flatter piece of chicken that cooks more quickly. So yeah, for this recipe, you just whip up this sauce using really just like pantry staples. And then the chicken goes into the sauce, into the oven for 20, 30 minutes tops, and dinner's ready. And this is great served with rice. And you know, something that I never talk about on this show, and I don't even have a recipe for this on Cook the Story, but I really need to, it is oven rice. Whenever I'm making a dinner where things are cooking at 350 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and there's going to be space in the oven, I make oven rice as a side dish. It's so easy. You put on a kettle of water to boil. You measure your rice into a saucepan that has a lid. You put some salt in there, a little butter in there, and then twice as much boiling water as you have rice, maybe a little bit less than that. Stir it, and then put the lid on and put it in the oven for 30 minutes. And it just is perfect in the end. So you have your chicken cooking in there. You have your rice cooking in there. You could do a little pan of green beans with some olive oil, salt and pepper in there as well. And like dinner, you're just throwing these pans into the oven and then it's ready. You know what I mean? Okay, but I'm supposed to be telling you about the balsamic chicken recipe, not about everything else that I've got going on at the same time, right? Okay, so preheat your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and then lightly oil a baking dish. Now for this one, I do either like to pound the chicken breast just a little bit thinner. You know, I talk about this sometimes, how one end of the chicken breast is thicker than the other. The sort of rounded end is thicker than where it comes to a point. And that means that that little point ends up a little bit drier than the rounder part by the time the rounder part's cooked through, you know? So what I do is I just pound the whole thing a little bit thinner between two pieces of parchment paper. I don't have the right kind of pounding mallet, or if I do, I can never find it. I'm not even sure if I still have it. So I use a rolling pin with that plastic wrap, just pound it a little bit, or take a knife and hold it parallel to your cutting board and slice through the chicken breast so that you're essentially butterflying it open. That makes it thinner and that's going to cook more quickly also. Or you're using those chicken thighs and those are juicier. So you have your chicken ready. You can put that into your pan and then in a small bowl mix together a 1/4 cup of olive oil, a 1/4 cup of balsamic vinegar, 2 cloves of minced garlic, 2 tablespoons of honey, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. See, this is getting like sticky sweet happening, right? And then a tablespoon of Dijon mustard or whatever mustard you have. And then also you want some herbs in there. If I have fresh rosemary or fresh thyme in my house, I will use a tablespoon of that, the leaves chopped up. If not, then a teaspoon of dried, of either of those, dried rosemary leaves or dried thyme leaves. That goes in with all those other ingredients, as well as half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, half a teaspoon of dried oregano, and half a teaspoon of dried basil. Mix that up and then pour it over the chicken. And then, you know, with a fork, kind of pick up each piece of chicken and flop it around in there so that it gets the sauce on all sides. And then that goes into the oven uncovered just until it's 165 degrees Fahrenheit in the middle. It's only going to take 20 minutes if those chicken pieces were thin enough, maybe 25 if they were thicker. Take them out of the oven. Maybe you also have some oven rice and some green beans in your oven. Take those out, divide those among the plates, put the chicken on top, spoon that sticky sweet sauce all over it, and dig in easy dinner for our Friday, but still kind of special, right? We deserve it. It was a crazy week. I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there, or find it in our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. And hey, just a quick note. I'm on a recording hiatus right now, so for the next little while, I'm replaying episodes from the archives, including this one. If you heard me mention a holiday, a season, or something going on in my life that seemed a bit off, that's why. Thanks so much for listening, and I hope you're enjoying these older episodes. I am Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, cookfor2.us, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.